Alright, this next part is probably the hardest part of this process, and that's putting the top of the bumper guard on. So you'll notice that I've got the bumper guard here, and there's a little dimple right here indicating the center of the bumper guard. You can also go by the pattern. You'll notice that they have those three cutouts here. You can use your fingers and kind of get towards the center. You do the same thing with the wavy piece. But before I insert this into the bumper guard, I'm going to show essentially what you're doing with your awl. Some people don't really see it right away, so what you do here is when you place the awl into the grommet and you insert, the side grommets into the frame, when you wiggle your awl, all you're doing is giving kind of an angled motion here with the grommet. And when you're inside the frame, all you're trying to do is line up the grommet with the hole that it's trying to come through, and then it'll typically sink in and come through the frame. You don't have to use too much force with the awl. All it's trying to do is rock back and forth and trying to find the hole. So before we continue here, we have to install this piece into the bumper guard. A lot of manufacturers will have the bumper and the grommets come as one set. But with the Babolat frames, these are the woofer grommets, so they come separately. So find the center of the wavy bumper set. In this case, that's right here. Line them up with the dimple and insert them like so. Sometimes you'll need an awl to make sure they line up. It's kind of a pain in the butt. And just another tip that some people like to use is they like to boil or put the bumper guard and plastic pieces into a bowl or a pot of hot water. And what this does is it makes the plastic a lot more pliable. I don't typically do this because when I replace bumper guards, it's typically at work with no access to hot water, but for a lot of people this works. So now the bumper guard has the grommet insert placed in. You'll notice that the angle of these grommets is kind of all over the place. Most of the time you see your grommets come straight through the bumper guard, but you'll notice here and here that the angle is a little bit off. So just take note of that when you're actually installing the bumper guard. When it rounds out, it becomes a little more straight, but this area right here is going to be a problem area. So when you use your awl, make sure that you're angling it a little more towards the frame, because that's how the frame is drilled. So what I like to do here is find the center again. That's these two holes. Grab the racket and line them up with the top. The top typically has also an indentation right here from the manufacturing process. So I would put these two grommets in. And what I like to do is kind of just guide a couple of grommets in, and then I hold down right here. And so when you're applying a little pressure right here, you'll notice inside the frame that there's not too many grommets that are actually pushing through, and that's okay. What we're going to do is start from the center and work out for one side, and then do the other side. I always do one side fully because the way this bumper guard is shaped, you'll notice it's got a little bit of flex to it, so they tend to pop out if you alternate sides. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you one side, and you'll notice the center two grommets are barely pushing through, but you'll hold them down, and then just from the center out, we'll just push in. You'll notice maybe 3 or 4 of them are now popped in, and like I showed before, that angle shot, this grommet's the most problematic. So you just rock it in, it pops in place, and then these three, there's a little bit of a stretch right here for the next grommet, so you're going to want to angle all of these grommets this way. And like I said earlier in the video, you don't need to get this one all the way through before working on these two. A lot of the times these two are actually what's causing this one to not pop in. So don't put too much downwards force here, because this grommet is just trying to find its hole. You'll notice my awl comes through the frame here. Just give it the right angle and hold down on this edge right here with my middle finger. You'll notice this grommet's not all the way through, but I'm going to move on and make sure these two guys are settled as well. And once you've done this, none of these are through yet, but now we're going to back up now that these grommets are kind of complying to the curve of the racket here. We're going to go through here. You'll see this grommet just popped through. Now this one. And finally the last one. So that's pretty much the hardest part of this entire grommet and bumper guard install, is this shoulder region right here. So now you'll notice that these grommets here are actually staying in place. You can smash them down with your thumb, just like I showed you down here. And going on the other side, fingers again in the center. Wiggle the top couple in place. They're lined up. And again, I have this stubborn angled grommet here. Just get it into the hole, pop it in, hold it down. Same thing with these guys. You'll notice my fingers are moving down the frame as I go. And these guys aren't all the way through yet, but I'm not going to force them because I've got this little stretchy area to worry about. And this stretchy area is really where the hot water is going to help. It's going to help you stretch that area a little bit. So moving down, placing my finger here again. Get the grommets just into the hole. This guy's a little more stubborn, but I'll worry about getting the angle right. One more thing I like to point out, sometimes what happens is this bumper guard, since it's not connected to the grommets, will actually shift a little bit this way when you're working on the set. So you can give a tiny little bit of a tug on this side. And come back through here. You'll notice they settle in as you coax it a little bit. And then typically what I'll do is I'll take a look at the inside and see where the grommet's lining up. And then getting it through. When I install grommets at work, what I'll typically do is I'll put the racket handle between my knees, and that gives you a little extra support. And finally, the enlarged grommet. Just give it a little wiggle and it'll come through. And that's the toughest part of the grommet replacement.